Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to read the law relating to transfer of property, but I'm only revising this. I have already made videos on it. So I'm going to read now vested interest and contingent interest. But before that, we need to go through the differences between those two. Vested interest, number one. Vested interest, number two. Contingent interest. So, vested interest, condition, it does not depend on fulfillment of any conditions. Okay? Contingent interest, it depends upon fulfillment of conditions. That's why it is contingent. Right in a basis. Then comes right in enjoyment. It present immediate right, but its enjoyment may be postponed to some future date. So, it is an immediate right, present immediate right. Okay? It present immediate right, but its enjoyment may be postponed to some future date. It's creates rights immediately. But in case of contingent interest, of course, as we know, it depends upon the fulfillment of certain conditions. Right of enjoyment accrues on happening of an event, which is uncertain, happening of certain future uncertain event, happening of some future uncertain event. That's why it is contingent. Then comes transfer is that it is not defeated by that of transferee. Vested interest, which is of course not dependent fulfillment of any conditions and which creates present immediate right, is not defeated by that of transferee. Okay? Not defeated by that of transferee. Contingent interest, on the other hand, it is defeated by that of transferee. Okay? Then comes transferability. Vested interest, it is transferable, and heritable means it can be the person, the owner can transfer it, as well as it is heritable. Okay, but contingent interest is non-transferable. It cannot be transferred, as of course it depends upon fulfillment of certain condition, and it does not create present immediate right. That's why it is not transferable. Then we're going to read vested interest is given under section 19 of Transfer of Property Act. Word vest has two references here: vested in position and vested in interest. Vested in position means right to present position of property. So here you see vested in position means right to present position of property. It is mere possession and non ownership. Okay, the term possession and ownership both are very different. Position is merely physical position. Okay. Then vested in interest means present right to future possession of property. So vested in interest means it is a present right, and this right is subject to future possession of property. Then comes vested interest means interest created in favor of person which is not subject to happening of an event. Vested interest means what? Interest created in favor of person which is not subject to happening of an event, happening of some certain happening of future uncertain event, means any contingent event, or if subject to happening of an event, then such event is bound to happen. Okay, so here we find it in this point. See here, it means present right to present right. See the word present right to future position. Okay, it creates immediate right. Vested interest, section 19. Then example, we need to give examples in exam, it will fetch more marks. Property is given to A for life with a remainder to B. Okay, so here we see two persons, A and B. Property, of course, it's maybe movable property, of course, is given to A for life word is used here, with a remainder to B. B is the remainder. A's right is vested in position, B's right is vested in interest. How these two differs? A has the position. Vested in position means right to present position of property. So A has the present position of property. Vested in interest means present right to future position of property. The right is of course present, but the position of property will be in future. In future you get the position of property. Vested interest in transferable and heritable. Of course, we know vested interest is as opposed to contingent interest is transferable as well as heritable. So here two words we need to remember: number one, transferable, and number two, heritable. Transferable means it can be transferred. Heritable means it is heritable. to another person. If transferee dies before taking possession of property, such property passes to legal representative. That is why it is heritable. If transferee dies before taking possession of property, such property passes to his legal representative. Legal representative means to a person who represents the estate of the deceased. Then comes contingent interest. Contingent interest means interest created in favor of person, which will take effect on happening or not happening on specified and certain event. So here you need to focus on the words, how it is used here. Contingent interest means interest. Of course, it is an interest created in favor of a person, which will take effect. When it will take effect? On happening or non-happening. It may happen or it may not happen. Of specified, but it is specified. Uncertain event. Future uncertain event means. That's why it is contingent. Subject to fulfillment of certain conditions. Okay. Example, A transfers property to B until B marries, and after marriage of B to C. C has contingent interest in property. Here, how many persons are there? A, B and C. A transfer property to B, okay, until B marries, and after marriage of B to C, C has contingent interest in property. Then comes movable and immovable property. That's very easy. We have to know the definition of movable and immovable property, because Transfer of Property Act deals with only transfer of immovable property, except in few other cases. But the Sales of Goods Act deals with transfer of movable property. So we need to know the definitions of movable property as well as immovable property. So movable property is not defined under Transfer of Property Act. As per General Clause Act 1897, so General Clause Act, the year is, we have to remember, 1897. Movable, it is 18, okay? 18 and 1997. Movable property means property of every description except immovable property. Now, this is a very simple definition, not so exhaustive. The property of every description except immovable property. So let's see then if the word except immovable property is used here. So we need to understand what does it mean by immovable property. As per Section 2(9) of Registration Act, Section 2(9), this is in Registration Act, okay? I think the year will be 1908. As per Section 2(9) of the Registration Act 1908, it includes property of every description excluding immovable property. But including what? Movable property includes standing timber. It is standing timber only, okay? Not trees. Standing timber, growing crops and grass. Why growing crops and grass? Because these crops are growing crops. These are grown for a temporary period. And grass. Standing timber. Then comes examples of movable property. Machinery fixed on land, temporary. Machinery. Any kinds of machinery which is fixed on land. Temporary. The intention of the owner is what? For a temporary purpose only. Intellectual property right. Intellectual property right may be copyright, patent, or something like this. Standing timber, and copyright is also goods under the Sales of Goods Act. So it's of course movable property, not immovable. Then standing timber and growing grass. Standing timber only, okay, not the trees which are rooted in earth. So right to recover, maintenance, allowance. These are goods. Right to recover, maintain, allowance. Then royalty and also copyright. I have already mentioned copyright. Immovable property, not defined under Transfer of Property Act. Immovable property is not defined under Transfer of Property Act as per Section 3. Immovable property does not include standing timber, growing crops and grass. So as per Section 3 of Transfer of Property Act, Section 3 here, okay, not Section 2. Mostly Section 2 and 3 deals with the definition or interpretation clause. But in case of TPA, you have to remember that it is Section 3 and not 2. Section 3, immovable property does not include standing timber, growing crop and grass. Okay, what it does not include only given. That means excludes standing timber, growing crops and grass. That means standing timber and growing crops and grass are movable property, as we have already found here. Standing timber are 3 feet for use for building or repairing houses. Standing timbers are 3. Okay, these are 3 feet for use for building or repairing houses. This is an exception to the general rule that growing trees are immovable property. Growing trees are immovable property, but it depends on the intention of the person, whether he want to cut it or use it for building or repairing houses or other costs, or whether the growing trees is for the purpose of its fruits or other purpose. Okay, depends on the intention. Growing grass. It includes all vegetables growing which have existed apart from their produce, such as pan, leaves, sugarcane, etc. Because they must be cut down at a certain specific time. Grass is an movable property, but if it's right to cut grass, it will be an interest in land and hence forms movable property. Then comes as per section 325 of the General Laws Act 1897, immovable property shall include land, benefit to arise out of land and things attached to the earth. So land, of course we know land is immovable property. Benefits to arise out of land, it includes not only land but benefits also, it may arise out of that land, and things attached to the earth or permanently fastened to anything attached to the earth. Permanent word is used here, okay, not temporary. The Indian Restoration Act 1908 expressly includes under a to immovable property the benefits to arise out of land, hereditary benefits, okay, land is also included here, but benefits to arise out of land, hereditary allowances are also included, right of way, lights, ferries and fisheries. These are immovable properties, so you need to know the right of way, light, we know, ferries and fisheries. In the case of Surki Kurdipa versus Gundakul, court has explained that movability may be defined to be a capability in a thing of suffering alterations. Okay. On the other hand, if a thing cannot change its place without injury to the quality of equality, it is movable, means which is permanent, is movable. Example of movable property. We need to give certain examples in exam. It will fetch more marks. Cattle embedded in art. Cattle. Okay. Embedded in art. Easement. We know easement is a right to way or water. Right of way. Right of enjoyment of immovable property under lease. It includes rent as well. Yes. Right of fishery. Right to collect rent of immovable property. Rent means beneficial interest. Okay, right to the current rent, which is beneficial interest to movable property maybe land, beneficial interest to land, interest of mortgage, interest which is of course beneficial interest of mortgage. Difference between movable and immovable property. Basis: movable property, immovable property. The movable property can easily be, okay, what is this? Movement. The movable property can easily be transported from one place to another without changing its shape, capacity, quantity or quality, without changing its shape, capacity, quantity and quality. Transferable. No, not transferable. What? Transported. Then comes immovable property. The immovable property cannot easily be transported from one place to another. For example, land cannot be transported. If transported, it will lose its original shape, capacity, quantity, or quality. Here we will find 2 points. Although it is given under one point. Without changing it. Here, without changing its shape, capacity, quantity, or quality. And here, if transported, it will lose quality, original shape, capacity, quantity, and quality. After it transfer, mere delivery with intentions to transfer the movable property completes the transfers. So delivery is important. Delivery, mere delivery with intention to transfer. Intention is also important. Intention to transfer the movable property completes the transfer. In case of immovable property, mere delivery does not suffice for a valid transfer. The property must be registered in the name of the transfer. So registration is essential in case of immovable property, but it is not so in case of movable property. And registration here is Indian Registration Act 1908. It will be registered under Indian Registration Act 1908. Then comes registration. Registration is optional under Indian Registration Act 1908. The word optional is a keyword you have to understand. It defines registration optional. One is optional and another is compulsory. In case of movable property, registration is optional. In case of immovable property, it is compulsory. Means they must have to register it. Otherwise, the transfer will be invalid. Compulsorily registration under Indian Registration Act 1908. Subject to conditions that its value of if exist 100 rupees 100. It is compulsory, but only if there is one condition, that is only compulsory if its value exists rupees 100. And of course, in today's time, it will exist 100 rupees. Illustrations and examples are also there, so we have to give illustration examples to fetch more marks. Mango trees, if cut and sold for timber purpose, are deemed as movable property, but mango trees, if they are sold for nourishment and for fruits, they are deemed as immovable property, nourishment and fruits. So it depends upon the use, or in other words, purpose, for what purpose it was used. That will render it movable, either movable or movable. For example, mango trees, if cut and sold for timber purpose, are deemed as movable property. If it is sold for nourishment and for fruits, they are deemed as immovable property. Then comes examples: immovable property, vehicle, books, utensils, timber, etc. A lot of you can give a lot of examples. Growing crops and grass also, you can give these examples as well. In case of property, land, houses, trees attached to the ground, so long as they are so attached. Condition is that so long as they are so attached. Rules relating to transfer of property. I'll read this in part 2. Okay.